Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. It's our final 1982 album war that we're going to be doing here this year. And let's introduce the panel first. Before we get to the two albums in question, we've got Steve Keeler, Mr. Rock Fantasy on board. We've got the King, Chris Allo, Nick Franco, back from a few weeks off. Well, he was here last week, but he's back again. 2 weeks in a row we got Nick. We got Chris Canzaneri. And we got Mr. Ryan Scow. And today we're going to take a look at two pretty cool metal albums, maybe not big selling metal albums, but pretty cool stuff, albums from the underground. We've got Manowar Battle Hymns going up against Raven Wiped Out. First album for one, second album for the other. Both pretty cool. We're going to have Mr. Scow kick us off today, talking about both albums and giving his vote. And then we'll go Nick, Chris, Steve, and myself. So what do you got, Ryan?
Nope, this was actually my idea. And even though I said this idea, it was not that difficult. So Raven, this is definitely, in my opinion, my favorite Raven album. We were among the middle tier of new wave British heavy metal bands, obviously not as famous as Iron Maiden or Def Leppard, but they were solidly in that Tigers of Pang Tang, Angel Witch, Diamond Heads, like realm of bands. And this album's cool because this is one of the first albums for me that I've heard that really like stomped on the accelerator. Bands are starting to speed up, play a little faster. Obviously Iron Maiden comes around 1980, 81, they're playing faster than a lot of 70s bands. But man, you put this album on, the first song, Faster Than the Speed of Light, it's just like romps on it. It's not like full-on thrash metal yet, like where Metallica would go, a year later. But it's getting there. It's fast as fuck. And I actually saw myself, a couple people saw Raven a couple months ago down in New Jersey. And they got the drummer now from Fear Factory. And otherwise, it's just the two Gallagher brothers. And man, there wasn't a lot of people in there. They played real late, small bar. But man, you would have thought they were playing to a packed Madison Square Garden. They played their fucking asses off. Guitar solos, screaming, running back and forth. They played everything you want to hear. It was $1 million performance. It was really good. So ever since then, I've just like been in a Raven mood, going back like, man, I forgot how good these guys were. Bring Down the Hammer, Firepower, every song on this album, Battle Zone, is amazing. It's such a good album. But having said that, this is one of my favorite bands of all time. Manowar is an interesting band because they started off with how they sounded on this album. They didn't really maintain this for a very long time. The first, basically the side A of this album has a very like hard rock, 70s classic metal vibe, Death-Tone, Metal Days, Fast Taker, which I love. But they didn't really keep that going for pretty much any album going forward. The last two songs, other than the bass solo, Dark Avenger, which has the great narration by Orson Welles, and the fucking title track, Battle Hymn. That's that more epic, triumphant, you hold your beer up high. I think that's the kind of sound that really started to garner them a huge fan base over in Europe, because it's just epic, sing-along stuff. Eric Adams' vocals are phenomenal. Every song on this album to me is phenomenal. So I'm going with Manowar. It's not even my favorite Manowar album. I actually like the next one more, Into Glory Ride, which was on Megaforce Records, which is I don't know, to me that's like Black Sabbath meets Conan the Barbarian. It's slower, it's heavier, it's more epic. And then they had a bunch of good albums after that. Then they got silly later, but we won't talk about that. But
it's still fun.
It's still, then they eventually got stupid many years later, but we definitely won't talk about that.
It was silly, but not silly and then stupid. I can think of some other bands like that.
We don't want to talk about that though. But early on, they were phenomenal because they're definitely on fire. Ross the Boss's guitar playing is great. The production's good. Eric, like I said, is one of his best performances. Obviously the band's young. They're full of piss and vinegar. They're full of fire here. The way transitions from the side A, which is kind of like a collection of just good, solid, like hard rock metal tracks. And then the last two tracks are just like this triumphant, epic metal, almost defining that style because they did it almost before anybody, because that kind of fits them alongside bands like Manila Road and Omen and stuff. They were one of the first. They were there really early on. So, and I'll be honest too. Every couple of years now, well, before COVID, hopefully again soon. We've been going to see Ross the Boss. He plays solo shows around here a lot, and he plays a lot of old Manowar stuff. And man, it just kicks ass. It's really good. So always gets me in the mood for it. So for me, it's gonna be Manowar. As much as I love the Raven album, Battle Hymns was fucking 10 out of 10. Great album for me. I listened to it. I didn't have to catch up on it because I listen to it all the time anyways. Like this is in rotation constantly. So definitely go with Manowar here.
There you go.
Born to live forevermore.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. Sing it.
1-0 Manowar. Nick.
Cool. Yeah, so I didn't have the background on Raven. I did miss that show, which I regret. I had to work. But yeah, Raven, the bones of that album Wiped Out are absolutely what I love. And if somebody had shown it to me back in the day, again, I would have went right for it. Really, really cool. There's no the only gripe I would have on I think the vocalist he's like almost out of control with like the yipping and yelling and screaming, and to me it sounds like a little like if he had controlled that a little more, that album would have been even better. I would imagine that nowadays with a really tight lineup, there probably sounds so much better live too. But that's a good ass album, Battle Zone, Bring the Hammer Down. This is good stuff. I mean, this is wonderful. And it's definitely like an 8 out of 10 kind of album. But as Ryan segued, I will segue as well. Manowar is, one of the things that I love the most about heavy metal is the sheer theatrical, bombast. Thank you. When boundaries are pushed, like, last week's albums, I like I said, that Michael Schenker group, that was, I never got into that. That's awesome. Like, I love it. And the Gary Moore, I can appreciate it and I see how good it is. But that's why I got right away from like hard rock into all the shit that I love, because I love bombast and storytelling and fantasy. Take me out of the norm and give me those fantasy realms and give me all that, histrionic crap. So I think Manowar, like you said, Rye, the first side of it is like kind of like a more angry, like AC/DC, style, like hard rock. It's still metal, little more mundane subject matter. Side B of Battle Hymns is fucking unbelievable. I mean, it's just that, and it did presage not only what Manowar we're going to continue to do, but I would imagine that when Corthon made the more epic Bathory albums, like he had to be referencing back to
100%.
Side B of Battle Hymns, right? The song Manowar itself is short but awesome. Really? Dark Avenger is just sets the mood, and then after William's Tale, like you said, the title track is one of those things. We recently sang it in a car full of other unfortunate people that were stuck with us going up Route 9. Oh man, imagine me sauced up, victory.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
That's tough to imagine, though, Nick. I'm just gonna say. You sauced up? Nah.
I was a little sauced.
Not my Nick.
Yeah, no. Aloe, he was hitting the fucking dashboard so hard singing it. I said, Nick, you got to stop. You're gonna set off my fucking airbags,
nice.
Please. He was like, really, he was in the Manowar zone, like fucking locked in.
So every time they said kill, he was like, boom.
Boom. Yeah. That's what it does to people. It gets you in that fucking zone, though,
Yeah. And again, I've said this a lot about when we look back at it. I cannot imagine hearing that in 1982. Like, holy shit. So, obviously I'm picking Manowar, Battle Hymns, but both great albums. I mean, like the Raven, I'm really getting more appreciation for them. I missed the boat. Yeah, I missed the boat with them, but
me too.
But they're good too. But yeah, freaking Manowar. Holy shit. That's my pick.
Cool. 2-0 Manowar. All right, Cans.
All right. I did not have a personal relationship with either one of these albums, but I did have Raven's live album, Live at the Inferno, which they did, right before they signed a major label deal. And that record has most of this album's songs on it. So I was familiar with a lot of the songs as I started listening, and I'm like, shit, these are a lot better than live versions. Which I don't know. That album is just it's such a desultory. Just I think they did it as some sort of contract thing, you know. But this was great. I was enjoying the hell out of this before I listened to the Manowar album, and then it was like, oh, okay, because I haven't really listened to Manowar a lot. And I got to say, the first side, it reminded me of a band called the Gods. You ever heard of it? With spelled with a Z, not the Gods with an S. You know, the Z Gods.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of that same kind of vibe, which I dig. I have, I think, one of their albums, their second
like biker rock. Yeah, very biker rock. Yeah.
So I was digging that, but then the second side, you know, it really started going. And this song with Orson Welles is like, oh, this is great. You know, and then the second half, after he finishes his little story and they really kick it in, I'm like, I bet you this is what they're really like. And the album kind of finished out like that. And, you know, I got to go with that over Raven. Mm-hmm. I like Raven a lot. I mean, I think, you know, that drummer, that guy Wacko or whatever, who used to, he'd wear like a hockey helmet, a chest protector. And at the end of the show, he'd dive on top of the drums and, you know, come up with blood on him and shit. You know, that was pretty cool for way back then. But, you know, I'm going to be listening to more Manowar from now on. So it looks like it's going to be a long journey. There's quite a few albums to get through. So
other bands,
Manowar for me.
Manowar kill.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to throw devil horns at Manowar. And you're not supposed to pump your fist like this at Manowar. Right,
Joey
Scout?
DeMayo
What do you
would yell
do?
at you.
Yeah.
Death to false metal.
They would yell at the crowd and they're like, do not do that.
They never yelled at me.
They should yell it. Well, you were doing it correctly, I'm sure.
I'm sure I was.
Maybe Chris Allo was doing it the old uninformed way.
Oh, right, because I'm a fucking idiot. Thanks, Steve.
No, it wouldn't. You have never done, unless you were really drunk and thought you were at a.
You just threw him right under the bus.
Yeah, I thought I was at Every Time I Die.
Yeah, maybe that one.
My favorite band, yeah.
Threw him right under the bus, Steve. Love it.
I'm just joking with him.
Speaking of Mr. Allo, what's your pick for this?
All right. Yeah, Raven. This was the second time I ever heard this record. I saw them in January '87, open for Wasp and Slayer, and I didn't really care for them that much. I think I only had the Stay Hard record, and then somebody told me to get Wiped Out, so I picked it up in Sounds in St. Mark Place in New York City. And it was cheap. It was like $1 or $2. I still have it because I remember it had like gaffer tape on the top and the bottom because I guess the top started to break or, you know, come apart. But I think I might have listened to it once in the 80s. I don't really remember it. It didn't stick with me. So this is my second time. Although I did see them a couple times live at festivals and they were good. They're definitely a good live band. But I don't know. It's definitely a heavy helping of 80s cheese. There's some good riffs for sure. A couple songs I kind of like Star War and To the Limit, to the Top. But man, Gallagher's vocals a couple times. I think Nick mentioned it, man, when he's doing that high-pitched screeching shit. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like it was like annoying to be annoying. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that when I'm listening to music in my car. You know, it's like I don't know, like a little sister that's like poking you while you're driving or giving you a wet willy or something. I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah, Chris, that was my big gripe, but it was the vocal.
Yeah, if he had taken that out and the tracks where he does less of that, I definitely dug it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of threw it off for me. But this, man, this is like Ryan already mentioned, and I mean, this is a fucking masterpiece. I was obsessed with this record in the 80s, and even into the 90s. I listened to it all the time. I remember I couldn't find the U.S. version, so I had to buy the import from Slip Disc in. Was that the Valley Stream, New York?
Yeah, Valley Stream. Yeah,
which was the fucking outside of Rock Fantasy, the greatest record store in the world.
Oh wow, he still likes
that
me
store.
after making fun of him.
But yeah, that store was great, and man, you know, people kind of forget how big Manowar were. They, at least in the New York area, they were like almost made it to somewhere. But man, I love this record from start to finish. I mean, everybody's mentioned all the great tracks already, and I wish Manowar were still doing shit like this. I know I've mentioned to Pete a couple times that I always think we should do a Jump the Shark episode where we all talk about bands that we used to love, and then they jump the shark and why we stopped. Because I always think of fucking Manowar, because everything up
Absolutely.
to Kings of Metal is fucking brilliant, and then they slowly jump the shark after
I
that.
love Triumph of Steel. I love it.
Triumph
Triumph
has
is
its
good.
moments.
And
but
I like
the
Louder Than
fucking
Hell.
28-minute track? Like, dude, come on. Like,
Oh,
you're
it's
not
so
Rush.
good.
You're not fucking Rush. I
They're
don't care
not
what
Rush.
Joey DeMaio thinks. He's
Oh,
no
that's
Geddy
a
Lee.
good song. That's a good song, but
It
It has its
the
moments, but 28
opening.
minutes?
It's the first song though, and that I'll give you that. It doesn't need to be the first.
I could watch a whole episode of Happy Days in 28 minutes.
You could.
That's fucking long. That's long.
It's a fucking commercial.
Yeah. So,
Happy
but
Days
anyway,
of-
that's a whole nother episode for Jump the Shark. But
I like
anyway,
that idea. I like that idea. We're gonna do
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
I already got one band in my head picked. So
yeah, I got a couple. But yeah, anyway, so
Dibs on Manowar, yeah.
sticking with the current topic. Yeah, I still love this record, and I just saw that they re-recorded that, and I'm like, no, I don't want that. And I have this one. This is just a regular version, and then I happen to look up, which I shouldn't have, that there's like a remastered version of this. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't know if I want to buy it again, but maybe I will. I don't know.
I could probably order it for you if you want me to.
All right, well, maybe
don't
we'll
wanna
have
hear
to
that,
do
guys.
that, Steve.
It's not good.
But yeah, no, I don't want the re-recorded one. And I just learned that they did that with a bunch of their albums, right?
The metal, yeah. You don't want any of that. It's bad.
No, I don't want any of that. But
Yeah,
but
right.
this album, yeah, this is great, and yeah, they were an amazing band. So yeah, that's my pick for Manowar.
4-0. Steve.
All righty. So thanks for having me back on the program tonight. And Ravens, I'll agree a little bit. I'm not as harsh as Chris is on them, but I mean, I have the record store. I was back in that whole scene. I never got into Raven in a way. I have friends that worship them, love them, like Ryan and a few other people I know in my circles that love them. Went to the shows, and I never got into it. I think it could have been the vocals, and I don't know. I mean, I like some other bands that have vocals similar, but I listened to this album for the first time in forever today while walking my dog, and I'm going to give you a couple of tracks I thought were probably I'll give you my three that I picked. I like the Star War song. I thought that was cool. The To the Limit to the Top, I'll agree with Chris. And the Faster Than the Speed of Light is good. The first track. I mean, it's a decent album. I enjoyed listening to it. And then I went and put on the Manowar record. I hadn't heard this one in a while. I mean, that album is on rotation in my store and our radio station we make there through our iPod. And Battle Hymn, if Battle Hymn is going to beat that whole Raven album for me. If it's just a one-song record, it would have. And
I agree with that.
And then Shell Shock, which is like the Manowar's version of PSTD. And they're talking about going to war and coming back screwed up and how the businessman, it's an anti-war song and Death Tone. I remember seeing Manowar back in these days and my ears are still hurting from that stuff. And I will also say, the Battle Hymn is such a great song. And you could just listen to those songs. And like you guys were talking about, these are great sing-along songs. And like, you're at a show or at a party, put on Iron Maiden, put on these Manowar songs, and everybody's drinking and singing along with Manowar. And Manowar is definitely going to beat Raven on this one for me. I thought it was way, way too easy for Manowar with this one in my book. So
5-0. Yeah, it's funny.
Get out the broom.
Now I know, Steve, like all those years that I've been shopping at Rock Fantasy and the hundreds of times where I've walked in, you'd be like, have you heard this? You should check this out. Not once in all the almost 40 years of me going to Rock Fantasy did you ever once try to get me to buy a Raven album. Never. Now I know why.
Probably, I mean, and by the mid 80s, I don't know if we had too many, like late 80s when you were coming in, I don't know if we had that many Raven albums. We'd already
you had them. I remember
Steve Keeler, John Gallagher on line 2.
Oh boy, well, I don't
John
know.
Gallagher,
Well, this isn't like
Keeler.
John Sykes calling up Butch. That'd be something different.
You know what,
You know,
though, Steve? I'll say this.
Mm.
Oh, sorry, sorry. Pete.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan.
As much as we shit on new Manowar, I did buy at that show the last Raven album. It's really good. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Is
Called
it
Metal
good? Okay,
City.
cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. Yeah.
I'm not saying they're a bad band, but they're not going to beat Manowar in this one. It just wasn't.
No, I
my
agree
cup
with
of
you.
tea
And they
back
got-
then
they
for
got
whatever
like a
reason.
ton of albums
And I
I
was
haven't
trying to
heard.
figure out today, why didn't I get into this band? Because other people rave about them. And then Chris Allo kind of came on, and I didn't know, he made it even worse than I thought about it. But Chris,
Hey, I like what you
that's
like.
why people love Chris Allo on these channels. They love him because, what he said about the new Iron Maiden is still, people love it. He doesn't hold back.
I try not to, Steve.
He speaks his mind. Chris Allen does.
Yeah. No point sugarcoating it.
His
No
mama
sugarcoat there.
taught him well. Always be honest, right?
Even if you don't
Say
like.
what you say. Mean what you say.
All right.
So, like Cans, I only ever owned the Live at the Inferno album from Raven. That's all I ever had. And yeah, it's not a great live album. So many people are like, oh, this is such a great live album from them. You
No
gotta have
energy.
it.
No energy. No balls.
It's okay, but it's like, eh. So I never bothered to listen to any of their studio albums. So hearing Wiped Out over the last couple of days for the first time ever, I gotta say it's not a bad album. It really isn't. You know what? There's some really good riffs on there. The solos are great. Chainsaw is a kick-ass tune. Star Wars is great. Battle Zone, To the Limit, To the Top is really good. Bring the Hammer Down. I mean, it's a pretty heavy album. Well played. I like it. I may even want to listen to more Raven after hearing that. However, in saying all that, this album crushes. This is, to me, a top 3 Manowar album of all time. Some days is my favorite. Some days my number 2. Every song on here is great. I was never a big fan of Joey's bass solo songs, so you can take that. You can take William's tail off of this, and I'd be fine. But man, title track, Dark Avenger, Death Tone, Metal Days, and a couple of you mentioned how side 1 of the original album's got a little different feel than the second side. So I actually this morning I did, because I'm doing this whole month-long thing on the channel, favorite albums from '82. I talked about how side 1 of this album seems influenced by the original Montrose album, which came out like a decade before. It's just got that kind of like biker rock, early hard rock metal type of feel to it. Some of the guitar riffs seem influenced by that album. It's a little more straightforward, less epic, but it's no less great. Death Tone is so good. Metal Days, Fast Taker, Shell Shock, Manowar, great songs. I don't know. I think this is a great album. One of their best easily, but they would go on and kind of like refine their sound from here. But yeah, I mean, a band that influenced so many power metal bands, especially European power metal bands going forward. And I think, also, and I think Ryan mentioned this, there were other bands around that time like Manila Road and Sirith Ungol, right, who were doing these kind of new sounds from here in the US. And yeah, great stuff. Battle Hymn is my pick. And just when you thought it was going to be a complete sweep, we did just get Butch's vote for this, and he's voting for the Raven.
Boo.
Wow.
Vote
He
for the
wouldn't show
Raven.
us. Wait a minute.
Never
So
more.
he wouldn't come on and show his face to tell us this. He didn't want to be the one guy.
Probably not.
Wow. And Ryan, I was sending you to go get the broom, and you almost went and got it, I bet. And the dustpan.
No broom, no dustpan, Steve.
I feel like when I was listening to the Raven, I felt like I heard where Bobby Blitz might have gotten his, well, I think they probably came up at the same time, but he sounded like he was like doing a little bit of Bobby Blitz and a little bit of it, but it just the timing. If he would have just had, you can do the high pitched crazy shit, but it's gotta like be crescendoed at the right time. I mean, I think that's my gripe with it. I didn't dislike his voice, but I think he just needs to just figure out when it's time to turn it all the way up, and it would have been better.
And for my benefit of the doubt, now Pete, you didn't go to Record City or Record World to buy the record either, because I didn't turn you on to it. So it wasn't my fault altogether, because you could have bought it somewhere else.
True, Steve. Very true. Very true. All right, so we have almost a complete sweep, but I think for everybody here on the show here today live, Manowar is the pick. Not even close over Raven. So
Everybody do it. Everybody do it. Come on, Manowar. Come on. Come on, Chris. Let's do it. Everybody. Yes.
Brian's like, nope.
You're doing
Ryan,
enough
let's
for
do it.
all of us, Steve.
Ryan, you should have done it. Now you're a poser.
I better leave the hall then, right?
You know, posers
Nice.
leave the hall. Yes. Goodbye. You and
death
the
to
little
death
dog
to
now leave the
false
hall.
metal fans. Be gone.
Yeah. Your poser friend over there.
So what do you think,
The
guys?
dogs
Next
are-
week,
they're already taking a nap.
jump the shark band. You think we can make that happen for next week?
You want to do that next week?
I like
I
that.
can think of at least one.
sounds
I
good.
know one, the biggest one I can think of in my head right
No,
now.
I got a couple already swimming in my head.
Three each. We'll let everybody else know. And
Couple at least, yeah.
all right, as we leave 1982 behind and we move into other topics. So stay tuned next Monday as we do our first show in March. Jump the Shark Band. So we're each going to come up with three bands that after a specific album for us, it jumped the shark and we kind of jumped off the train at that point. So,
Right, like an album or a concert or whatever. But you want to. My thinking was, give the reason why you stopped following this band.
right.
So it could be you went to see him at a show and they were like horrendous and you just stopped listening.
Maybe
to
they
them. So it
changed
doesn't
the
have to be a
singer.
bad-
Yeah, maybe they changed the
I mean,
singer. You didn't
anything.
like the new singer, guitar player, an album, a
Okay.
different style change, whatever.
Yeah.
Singer cut his hair. They did a lousy gig. They put
Yeah,
out a
you
record
cut
that
your hair. I
sucked.
can't listen to you anymore, you poser.
They put out load and reload. Yeah, whatever you want.
Right, yeah.
Mine, took mine.
I stopped talking to Ryan when he cut his hair.
Oh, geez, that was a long time ago, Steve, because I've been like that for ages.
I don't know if I know Ryan with hair, other than like a little bit of hair.
A
Nobody
little
does.
bit. Yeah, remember, if you look at pictures from 10 years ago, there's a little bit of hair.
A little bit. He had a little fuzz. Yeah, that I remember.
Just a little fuzz. That's long gone now, too. Just Mr. Clean.
I had a mullet in high school, if you can believe it.
I've seen photos of that. I can attest.
We
to
need a photo now. You could be the new Joe Dirt with that mustache and the mullet. Come on, let's get
That is,
let's get
that
it
is a
going,
good
bro.
mustache, I gotta say.
It's back in style. Mullets are back, bro.
You see why it looks like I have a mustache? Because look, this is all white
Right.
and gray.
See that.
That's right.
Just for
I say shave it all underneath. Just go with the '70s porn
Because
stash.
last week he had the
Yeah.
mustache and we thought it was chocolate milk, but it's still there.
I think only you thought it was chocolate milk, Steve. I thought it was a mustache.
Well, I didn't say all of it did.
Love it.
All right, everybody. So vote for your favorite between Manowar and Raven in the comments below. Stay tuned for Jump the Shark Bands next week, Monday night. Visit us on the web at I forgot what I'm going to say. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, but of course we're here all together all the damn time on YouTube for Steve Keeler, Chris Allo, Nick Franco, Chris Canzaneri, and Ryan Scow. I am Pete Pardo. See you next month in March, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Woo.